Yeah, welcome to Opening the Bedroom Doors. We're talking about skyrocketing your libido today. I have my guest Hillary here with us, and Hillary was I asked her what she made me in this libido drink, and we were saying it's magic brown juice.
Yes, magic brown juice.
You'll learn more about that magic brown juice after we do a few little introductions. So welcome to this space if you're new to Opening the Bedroom Doors. I am a professional sex coach, and in my private practice, I hear so many people talk about what they don't know exists in sex, what they don't know to try. So we are revealing the different things that you can try one episode at a time with a sexpert of some sort. And we're going to begin by doing a little pleasure first to just kind of transition from the day. So if you're able to, if you're not driving, if you're driving, great. But follow along, and then we'll get into talking about skyrocketing your libido and what that means. So close your eyes. Take some deep breaths. And begin to exhale out your mouth, making an H sound. Maybe even making sound on the exhale. And if you're able to, place one hand on your chest and one hand on your lower belly. And feel the rise and fall of your hands on these areas as you inhale and exhale. And then you're going to begin to locate your libido as if your libido were a part of you. Notice if it is present or if it is on vacation. Notice if it is logged off, if it's taking a break, or if it's living somewhere inside of your body. Whether it's inside your body or away, begin to imagine a color for your libido. Just the first color that comes to mind is probably the best. And then what kind of texture, if you were to imagine your libido right now, what kind of texture would it have? And then I would love for you to ask it if it has anything that it needs you to know. Any little messages. And then thank your libido for communicating with you. If it did not, that's totally okay as well. Do any last stretches or sensation play on yourself before you open your eyes. Great. Beautiful. Welcome, everyone. You can please share in the chat what your libido said to you, what color it was, if it was on vacation, if it's been logged off, if it's here and high. Hillary and I have been great friends for, I think, almost close to a decade. And Hillary and I actually live in the same house. So Hillary is 2 floors above me right now. And we met each other because people thought that we looked like twins. And they confused us for each other. They would be like, oh yeah, I totally met you the other day. Your name's Hillary. And I'd be like, my name is Jessie. And that is really strange because now that Hillary and I are on this call, like when we actually can see both of ourselves side by side, we look nothing alike. People, I don't know what they were seeing, but anywho, again, just to let you all know, I am an erotic blueprint coach, a sex coach, a pleasure expert, and in my private practice, I help people understand their desires, understand their pleasure, how to ask for their pleasure, how to receive, how to talk dirty. I take people on a 6-month journey that completely opens them up to their erotic breakthroughs. So Hillary, will you introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name's Hillary, and I am an Ayurvedic practitioner. I come about sexuality from a much different standpoint than Jessie. I'm more in the field of health and wellness for mind, body, and spirit, so you can live in ways that feel really good and aligned for you, and you feel like you have the vital energy to do so. That's more of my realm.
Yeah. And Hillary and I are talking about skyrocketing your libido, which I recognized from asking in the group, like, tell me something about you and your libido. A lot of people had different relationships to their libido, and having a skyrocketed libido didn't necessarily mean having a great time with it. And so Hillary and I are going to approach this from both sides, from like an intimacy and sex perspective, and then from a health and wellness perspective as well. And what prompted this conversation was that I have identified as having a low libido for quite some time. When I'm not in a new relationship, when I'm in a long-term relationship, I tend to enter into more of a low desire. And I also have spontaneous, or I have responsive desire, which means that I only really feel like that randy and turned on when I'm given stimulation, either by myself or with a partner. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, it's not really there. So I have identified as having low libido for quite a long time, and I've done all the hacking because of the sex coach training. And I turned to Hillary one day and I was like, are there any things that I could do health-wise that would like rock up my libido? And Hillary had some suggestions, and it turns out that the suggestions that she had made my clitoris right between my forehead from then on, which just boosted my libido. And I was like, damn, we need to talk about this because I know that culturally it's really desirable to have a strong libido. Like it's like it signifies vitality and like feeling sexy, and I almost feel like there's a cultural message that if you're not like turned on and if you're not horny, then like something's definitely wrong with you. And we're gonna bust that myth that that's not necessarily true. We want you to fall in love with where your libido is at right now. So if it's not somewhere that you want it to be, there's certainly things that you can do to shift and change that. So Hillary, will you share like your perspective of what it means to like work with your libido to get it to where you want it to be?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of a tricky subject because everybody is in such a different place with it, and a lot of our bodies operate very differently. So it kind of depends. It's not like a one thing fits all kind of deal. But I would say at the root of all of our libidos and our sexuality is health. And the more that you have like a sturdy and stable sense of health in your body, the more that your libido will be able to kind of blossom up and out. And if you're having the other, which is like a lot of people were commenting, is like too much libido and it's like distracting, then to me, that's like energy is just pooling in those energy centers in your body, and it actually needs to be like moved and rippled through your whole system to kind of feed into the different parts of your body. So it's almost like there's either, if you have a healthy libido, then you're like middle of the way, and that's great. And if it's like too much or too little, if it's too little, you either need to like boost something to bring that forth, or if it's too much, you need to diffuse it outward into other things, creative projects, other places in your body, etc.
Not just humping walls.
What?
Not just humping walls.
Yeah.
That's what's happened with me. Sometimes when I have gotten to have too high of a libido, it feels like the dog at the dog park that's humping the air. It is just naturally what shows up. And then it also simultaneously makes me want to bang my head against the wall because it can feel haunting in a sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I know. I like that you said your clit feels right between you.
Yeah. Someone said, what's the too much, too little gauge?
I think so if it's too much, I would say it's hard to function in your life because you're constantly distracted by sex and fantasy and fetishes perhaps, or like you just can't focus because you're so turned on and you can't get the things done that you need to do. I would say then it's impacting your life negatively. And if it's too little, it's like, where are you? Like, I don't feel sexy. I don't feel like I want to have sex. I don't feel like turned on by life, or like life is pulsing through me in a way that's exciting and joyful. Yeah.
Wait, I have one more thing to add to that. When I started taking the herbs that you recommended, I was like, there are my genitals. Like I can feel them. Like as I'm seated on like a seat, I can feel and like see, and it's tangible. Where when my libido is less, it's like, oh, that part of my body doesn't have any kind of like awareness or receptivity, or not as much blood flow.
Yeah, I call that like when it's offline. Like it feels like it's just not there. Yeah.
Ugh, I love this topic. Some of the ways in which that I approach it are like, is there anything relationally going on if you're in a partnership? Like, what is it that's happening between you both that is unspoken or unhealed that needs to be brought to the surface? Because that certainly will create a distance between, even if your libido shows up, you'll be like, great, I have a raging libido, but I don't want to have any kind of sex with that person, which that's a unique conundrum. That's where I would suggest masturbation to be a focus, and to really get support with opening up the conversation, having some kind of healing support show up around that topic, or around whatever has happened where there's been like a rupture in your relationship, as well as knowing what it is that turns you on. A lot of the times our libido can be like hibernating because we don't necessarily know what turns us on. The erotic blueprints is a great way to understand what turns you on. Those are the 5 ways that you can be wired for arousal. That's something that I lead and teach on my website. Hillary is my demo model, where I teach people about their erotic blueprints, and then I show you on Hillary's body what Hillary enjoys in that moment by using the tools that I just taught you in the class. It's very fun. We're very giggly. And you get to discover, by using very simple tools, communication tools and touch tools, of what authentic desire and arousal is. Because plenty of times Hillary for these classes has shown up and been like, I don't feel like I don't feel good in my body. I don't want to do this. And then she'll do lots of self-care, and then she'll come to the class and we'll just work with exactly what's showing up. So learning about what you desire, and if the sex that you're having is even worth desiring. Like, is the sex that you're having worth it to you to even have it? And then that's when I go into with clients like health, emotional, physical, and hormonal things. And that's kind of like what Hillary specializes in as well, of like looking at all of those areas for what could be improved, increased, healed, changed, shifted. Yeah. So it's, I wish this topic would be really simple. And it's so dynamic. It is so dynamic. So while you listen to this, try and put on your erotic detective hat or spectacle, that you're going to get really curious about where the different weaknesses, or not even weaknesses, but where the, like, if your libido was a quilt, where are the loose threads? We're gonna go.
I like that.
Yeah. So, okay, I would love to know, what's your relationship to your libido? I'm just curious. Or what showed up in that little like internal check-in with your libido? And I'm curious for people too that are here. We did a little check-in of what's the color of your libido right now? Where is it in your body? Is it outside of your body? What's it want to tell you? What does it have to say to you? If you're open to sharing, I'll share mine as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel like my libido kind of falls in the center of my body, like around my cervix, which is like the portal of life. And I've done a lot of work there, and I've studied with practitioners to bring me to that like really deep central place of my body, and I've done lots of meditations of hanging out there. So for me, it feels pretty easy to access. I just like boom, like drop into that place in my body, which feels like a dark and luscious cave of magic. And the color that showed up and like the texture that showed up, it felt like very like liquidy and ethereal and watery. And the colors were like fuchsia and like a deep orangey, like fuchsia kind of blend.
Cool.
Yeah.
Was there anything that it needed to tell you?
Oh yeah, it told me to play more. That I need more play.
Oh, fun.
I love playing, so it's like it makes sense.
That's so great. I think also when we give ourselves permission to play, we can feel way more sexy from that, and taking all the pressure off of what it is that sex looks like.
Totally. Yeah. What about you? What does yours look like?
Well, mine was outside of my body. Today I've been feeling a little bit like I poisoned myself with food last night that was a little too spicy and a little too oily. And the whole day, Hillary knows that I've been huffing and puffing because my belly is turning and hot. And it's also like dehydrating me and sucking out a lot of my energy. And so my libido is down the block, it feels like. It's like in the medic tent, and it was red like a flame. That's really just signifying like the heat in my body from my belly being really upset. And what it said that it needed was, it was like, I'd really love to play with you, but like fix that shit first. My health is the thing that is getting in the way of my libido right now. And it's a short-term hot belly, hopefully. But it was so clear to me today of like, wow, I feel 0% sexy, 0% potential for any kind of libido to show up. And when Hillary was like, would you like a libido enhancing tonic? I was like, I don't know. How's it going to make me feel?
So I was like, I'll make it cooling for you.
Yeah. Will you tell people what's in our magic brown liquid?
Yeah. It is rose, saffron, Hosho Wu, milky oats, and I also put nettles and mint for Jessie to kind of cool her and nourish her a little bit.
I only knew what 2 of those ingredients were. Mint and nettles. And rose.
You know what roses are.
Yes, I know what roses are.
And saffron, you know saffron.
Yes. Would you share with people, like, if they were looking for some herbs that generally, or what would you suggest if someone was like, ooh, I would love to use herbs to enhance my libido? Is it like a one size fits all? Is it like I can go to New Seasons and just pick up that thing and just start taking it?
No.
Tell us.
No. Although I think people like play with herbs really like nonchalantly, which is fine. Like follow your what?
They get experimental.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, like follow your intuition. But I would say if you don't know much about herbs can be pretty potent. And especially if like you're on medications or taking other herbs, especially for like mental health, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really important to like check in with your practitioners first
Mm-hmm.
to understand that kind of chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if not, and like you're in pretty stable, good health, there's kind of two categories of herbs. I mean, there's many categories of herbs, but I like to break it down as far as like sensual, sexual herbs.
Ooh, I
One
love
category of herbs, like,
sexual herbs.
yeah, they build the strength of your sexual organs. And so then that's gonna cause like a more robustness in your body to be able to have like deeper health. So it's working more on like your organ systems to cause deeper health.
I
And then
love that.
oh yeah.
I love that. I didn't know that that really existed as a sensual sexual herb category that exists as like reproductive health,
Yeah.
or not even for reproduction, but just like sex organ health,
Yeah.
vitality herbs that are for like long term.
Yeah, they're known as like tonic herbs and they cause like vigor, like strength of the body. And then there's aphrodisiacs, which are just like sexy, enhancing, kind of more immediate, like they're less long-term building of the strength and more just like, ooh, this is going to cause like a lustful feeling in my body, or like it's going to cause turn on in different places in my body to kind of like light up and make me want to get sexy. So there's both in this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great. That's
Yeah.
my experience is that I've had like cacao and damiana and aphrodisiac type herbs, and they haven't really done anything. Like I've had a really great energetic time, like having lots of energy from those, but I haven't been like, oh yeah, I feel extra sexy. Where the tonic kind of herbs that you recommended to me, like I could feel the vigor. I could feel the it felt like my pussy did like weightlifting or something. And yeah, I was like, raise the roof. Yes. Um, and that was a really neat feeling to feel like, wow, like this is, here it is. It's like strong and it's also supporting my health, while also distracting me from my daily duties.
Right. Which I love that herb so much. I gave her like a potent dose, or like, of shatavari, which some people say it's shatavari, but it's shatavari, and
Mhm.
it translates to the woman with 100 husbands.
That's how it feels. That's how it feels.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's
you
like
need 100 husbands or partners in order to like relieve the vigor, is what I think is what that is trying to communicate.
yes, you must have 100 husbands to get down with it. No, no,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. To be satiated. I love that. So shatavari, is that something that, so I went to a naturopath as well, and the naturopath echoed that same thing. So I would always suggest to go to your health practitioner, or like a naturopath is great because they're going to look at whatever it is that you're seeking from like multiple directions. So I went to my naturopath and was like, so I'm going to experiment to try and raise my libido. Like, what is it that I need to experiment with? And they were like, lower your stress, increase your hydration. And they were like, and this herb is for sure the thing that most people come back to me saying, wow, that worked like a gem. And they said balancing out your hormones. So after I heard it twice, I was like, all right, here we go. I'm doing it.
Totally. And just something to note about that, like kind of those common ones in that category are like shatavari, ashwagandha, and maca. And even though those are like over the counter, like pretty safe to use, it's still helpful to kind of look into your hormones and kind of have a general sense of what's going on. Because, for example, if you're estrogen dominant or testosterone dominant, like it it might not be the right herb for you because it can affect those. So yeah, herbalism, it's like, it's helpful to have a practitioner or somebody that you're talking to about symptoms and dosage and all of that. That's what I recommend.
I agree. I was telling Hillary that a client of mine was sharing that they were using maca, which maca is not an adaptogen, so it does not adapt to your body's needs necessarily, and and balances itself out. It will just continue to add and build the different hormones that it's increasing, and that can work against you. Like if you have too much of certain types of hormones, you can feel like really mood swingy, or you can feel angry. You can like
right, like it can affect thyroid if it's not like roasted, for example, if you have like low thyroid, like, so yeah, there's definitely subtleties to it. Yeah. And there's different kinds, like black maca is like better for people who identify like as male, and yellow maca for people who have like uteruses. So
I didn't even know that there was a black or a yellow maca.
Yeah, and there's red, and there's roasted or unroasted. So yeah, there's always subtleties to everything. But if you do want to experiment, there's plenty of people with lots of knowledge about it, and Google is also
the Google. And Hillary is a great Ayurvedic practitioner. My experience of Ayurveda is that they also look at everything from a holistic perspective and a holistic lens. So nothing goes unaddressed in terms of what you're needing.
Definitely. Yeah.
Great. I'm curious if anyone that's listening has any specific questions about their libido. Please engage with us in the chat. That way we know that you're even here. I know that there's like numbers of people that are here, but I always love interacting with you both and hearing about what your insights are from our conversations. And that way we can kind of get to know and gauge like what it is that you're experiencing as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So one thing that keeps coming to mind is that like you can increase your libido, but then what actually I want to kind of reverse. This whole conversation was focused on skyrocketing your libido, which when I asked in that group, in the Opening the Bedroom Doors group, there were plenty of people that were like, my libido is too high, or it is really alive and it's kind of a burden. And then there were some people that were saying that their libidos were completely gone, or their libido comes and goes like the ocean waves. So I'm curious for the people that are here as well, like, where is your libido now? Where is it at now? And where would you want it to be? And then a great follow-up question is why? Like, I thought that I wanted a high libido, and I was like, yes, I want a high libido because then I'll be having lots of sex. But it turns out that I didn't prioritize the time to have sex. So I just had a very high libido and like had all this energy, but had nowhere to put it. So I would love, Hillary, you were saying that like some people have concentrated high libido energy that's like just in their groin or pelvis basically. And for those people, can you speak to them a little bit about like what they could do to not lower their libido, but to like feel more balanced?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And somebody said too in the chat, like any food recommendations for increasing or decreasing libido sounds like spicy, oily food isn't great for libido.
No.
So again,
it's great for lowering it, that's for sure. Non-existent.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's different for different people because like in Ayurveda, so the kind of magic about Ayurveda is like it's not one size fits all medicine. It's looking at the person. It's an elemental medicine. So it's looking at like what are the elements that are most alive in your body. So ether, air, fire, water, and earth are the 5 elements in the Ayurvedic system. It's different, a little different than Chinese medicine. And then that breaks down into constitutions. And so first, just understanding your constitution. For example, Jessie is a fiery. She is fire. She has a very fiery constitution. And so for her, definitely like spicy, oily foods are very fiery in nature. And so those are going to cause further like heat conditions and not do her any kind of good thing, especially in 115-degree weather. So yeah, so kind of understanding like your own internal environment. Do you run cold? Do you run hot? Are you very light in nature, or do you tend to be more heavy and lethargic? Understanding kind of like basic qualities like that of your own internal landscape, as well as understanding what the outer landscape is and the season that we're in. Those are really important just for like baseline health and understanding like how to treat your body. And then when you're bringing in like sexuality and sensuality, I like to think of it as like, okay, we have 5 senses, right? Which are like the portals into our body. And so, yeah. So we have, our taste from our mouth, we have smell through our nose, we have what we see through our eyes, what we hear through our ears, and then the receptors on our skin.
The whole body.
Yeah, on our whole body, over our whole body. And then we have other portals as well. And what were you going to say, Jessie?
Those are, I think, the commonly known portals.
Yes, but I think of our senses as portals where we take in the outside world. That's how we take in the outside world. And everything that we do with those can be medicine or poison or some neutral thing in between. But the more that we understand that, then the more that we take in through our senses the things that are going to nourish our body, calm our mind, make our spirit really happy, and ignite our sexuality in a way that we want to. And if we're taking in things that are igniting our sexuality too much, for example, and our libido is too increased because maybe we are having like, maybe we're taking in with our eyes like too much porn, or maybe through our mouths we're taking in like too much of the wrong food that maybe is like creating an internal fire, but like more of an aggravated fire that we're like agitated and we want to like fuck instead of having it be a kind of full body nourishing experience where our whole body is turned on instead of just localized in our genitals, like really pulling that up and through our body. It's creative energy. So sex creates life. And if you're not creating life and you're having sex or a lot of sexual energy, like it wants to create something, something wants to be created. Yeah. And so it can be channels like figuring out if you're in the camp of like my sexuality, or my libido is so strong that I can't focus. I would want to figure out how to channel that into things in your life that you want to create, whereas you're probably losing energy to too much like sex and not getting the things that you need to get done. How do you channel that into music, building things, art, creating a business, creating a romantic partnership? Like, how can you channel it? How can you?
Circuit training is so popular.
What?
Is that why circuit training is so popular? Like, I need to move boulders.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the types of people that are typically drawn to like CrossFit or circuit training or things like that, they tend to be much more like muscular, like have like a lot more body strength and muscle, and that is metabolism, which is fire, which can translate to libido. And yeah, a lot of times that needs to move.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Okay. Metabolism is one of the things that you and I were talking about earlier that's so important, that I think is one of the most it's not on the radar, I think, for when people have a libido that is low.
Yes. Yeah.
Will you say more about that?
Yeah. So I think it's good to, maybe we should talk to like about what gets in the way of libido, like what.
Great.
Okay. And also we can address metabolism within that.
Great.
So things that get in the way of libido, really simple, right? Like we take in food every day, multiple times a day. We have many meals in a day, at least.
Energy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's energy. But if we have any kind of digestive disturbance, I mean, that's like right above / where our reproductive organs are, depending on where you're having digestive issues. If you subscribe to the like chakra system, it's like third, second, first chakras can be affected by digestion. And that's something that is so common that really fucks up people's libido. Because if you're constipated, you're not eliminating every day, if not a couple times a day, then you're like blocked up there. You're not going to feel sexy if you're walking around full of shit, like literally. You're not going to feel like, ooh, yeah, I feel good.
Ooh, so full of shit.
Yeah, like our bodies are meant to like take in and get out, like take in and get out. So, and absorb and digest and assimilate and metabolize as well. But if those processes aren't working well, we're not going to feel sexy, like baseline number one. And then if you're chronically dehydrated, like not drinking enough water, I mean, libido has so much to do, especially with people with vulvas and uteruses. Like, if you don't feel like juicy, then you're not gonna feel that sexy. Like lubrication and like internal juiciness, if you're like creaky and dry throughout your whole body, not just in your reproductive organs, but like if you're just dry and like stiff and tight, you're not going to feel sexy. Like it's just not going to be there. So those are things that I see that are like really common and pretty easy to fix. And then another thing that can get in the way, which is discussed a lot in Ayurveda, is something called AMA, which is like it's that which is undigested, or it's kind of like cellular gunk or buildup from excess food, excess like things in our environment that aren't being digested well. It could be mental, emotional. So it could be like backed up emotions or like unprocessed emotions. All of that contributes. You know, it's not just all about our genitals. It's like we're a whole system that is integral to it working well, all systems online. And so if something is going on mentally and you're like, well, why am I not feeling like sexy or aroused? It might be that you need to process some stuff or journal or get a therapist or like, so yeah, so mental, emotional stuff for sure can get in the way. And then other things that deplete, I think this is really important. Other things that deplete sexual energy, overworking, which is like our culture is just chronically overworking. Overthinking.
Oh,
running the mind, just like, yeah, we got to like bring the energy down, diffuse the energy out, engage all of our senses instead of being such a like cerebral breed. Yeah. So, and we should talk about that. Like we should talk about how to engage the five senses maybe to bring all those different things back online. But yeah, so overwork, overthinking, stress, unprocessed emotions, shame in particular is like a huge wall to
it is like a
sexuality.
dam in the libido land.
Yeah. So like that, I would really recommend working with, getting a practitioner to work with if you don't feel comfortable doing that on your own. That's really big. And then menstruation also, like menstruation is a time to really like rest and allow your body to release and let go. We think we're supposed to be constantly working, doing, but we really work in cycles, and everyone does. And women, I mean, people with uteruses especially, but not everyone is meant to just like charge all the time. Like we need rest periods, phases. So that's another place that we can lose energy, especially if we're not resting. And then if you've had a baby, like that takes a lot of energy. I was just talking to my friend who was speaking about something called ojas. When you have a baby, you lose a lot of ojas. It's like your vitality, your vigor, because your body is giving so much to create this other human.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to look at like where you're at with all of this, like where you're if you're not feeling libido, like where are you losing energy, like life force energy to? Because that's what it is energy. So where is it being lost? And where can you pull it back a little bit, like let it come home to yourself to then, use it in the way that you want to, instead of just giving your life away constantly and not feeling pleasure, because we're meant to feel pleasure.
Your body was wired for pleasure.
Yes. And then, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to share one thing. If we didn't hit it on home with the like why it's so great to poop regularly in this conversation, I'm going to bring it on back. Your digestive tract is also responsible for distributing your hormones. So if you are not having a stress-free time releasing the I was going to say the trash in your body, which it basically is, then your hormones will not be regulated. And those hormones that make you feel super sexy and turned on are not being delivered to the right places. So that was something that I found fascinating when I was trying to, I had a lot of adult acne, like from childhood acne to, or like teenage acne to like 27. And so me trying to hack that, I learned a lot. And one of the most valuable things was like your hormones get released through your digestive tract. So you have to feed yourself in a way where you actually get to release that food in a useful way. And then you also get your hormones distributed between like 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. And if you're awake that entire time or most of that time, then your body doesn't get the rest that it needs to absorb those hormones as well.
Yes.
So poop regularly, y'all, and don't push too hard. That means you're dehydrated or something else is going on. We have to talk about this if we're going to talk about sex. It's just like it's so closely related.
Yeah, it's so true. The 3 pillars of health in Ayurveda are food, sleep, and sex. And that means like food, like nutrition, like actual quality nutrition, what you're feeding your body, and like hydration. That's the food aspect. Sleep is like actually getting enough rest for your body to recover each night, each day, from each day. And then sex, in the ancient scriptures of Ayurveda, 5,000-year-old scriptures in the Charaka Samhita, if you want to know the name of the book, they talk about sex and something called brahmacharya, which is like wise use of your sexual energy, or of your vital energy, basically. So using it wisely. And we only have so much energy in a day, in a life, and how do you want to use it?
Isn't brahmacharya also related to, what is that word where you abstain from sex?
Yeah, like kind of renouncing sex.
Oh, yeah, what? Like celibacy.
Celibacy, yeah. So it kind of depends on like, what your path is. The path of a person that's considered like a householder, like you and I, someone who lives in the world and is engaging in worldly things, work, like children, like wanting to have families, things like that. And then there's like the Brahmin class, or like the monks, or the renunciates, or the people who are taking vows of celibacy, because they're more spiritually, or they're on a different spiritual path. I very much think a householder path is also very spiritual. It just depends on what your intention is. So yeah, it's either that you're not engaging in sexuality at all, or you're using your sexual energy wisely. Yeah.
I love that, because I practiced brahmacharya, or celibacy, for 1 year after I was in a really toxic relationship. And the entire year, I dedicated my sexual energy to loving myself. So anytime that I wanted to reach out to that person, anytime I needed to feel validated or wanted or needed or loved, or a sex object or a seductress, I turned towards myself and asked myself, like, okay, what is it that you need? By constantly turning towards myself, I was able to heal a lot of the things that I was seeking from others. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those timeouts are really, really, really helpful. In between things that happen, relationships that end.
Yeah.
I think like pausing to get really clear on like how you run your sexual energy and like all of that is that's awesome. I've done it too.
Yeah, I love that you just brought up that like we have different sexual seasons and different sexual phases that we can be in. And if you're in a healing phase, like you're healing from maybe you're grieving, maybe you are experiencing sadness or emotional distress or physical distress, there is something to be done to heal. And when you're healing, it's sex looks very different, as well as being in a resting phase. Like resting is a part of your sexuality, and it's completely valid and needed for you to come back to full cycle. So I think that message could be like on billboards or in our sex education, or I think that we're not given that message of like, it's okay to not feel sexual and it's okay to put that energy somewhere else so that you feel more whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel that.
Did we hit all those things that we wanted to talk about in terms of like, we were bookmarking things of like, if your sexual energy is really high, what to do with it, what gets in the way? I was just checking.
Yeah, I think we talked about a good list of what gets in the way. I think also like a couple of the last things I think that we didn't mention was like trauma, abuse, those things that can get in the way, and also
Pain.
Yeah. Injury, surgery, numbness, probably usually due to those or due to like some kind of trauma. Medication. You could be doing everything right. I'm doing air quotations if you're not looking. You could be treating your body and your mind and your spirit like really, really well. But if you're on a medication that actually like has a like thing that blocks that is very possible. Yeah. And so figuring out how to work with that is going to be important. That can get in the way. And then I think too, like weird cultural programming that's like something that causes like insecurity, body shame, or not feeling beautiful or sexy. Those things can also get in the way. I highly recommend finding friends, allies, lovers, family members that can reflect your beauty to you, your wisdom to you, your desirability to you. We're all weird and quirky, and we all look different, and we all have different parts and ways of feeling and thinking and being. So the more like self-love, self-acceptance, if those things are getting in the way, I think that's really important as well.
I want to circle back to the pain part and the trauma, because I think there's some bits to be like distinguished or clarified a little bit, that a lot of us are living in pain pretty regularly. That like, if you think of how much pain you have on a daily basis, whether that's from having like a backache or a headache or tension in your shoulders or tight hamstrings, all of that pain is typically something that we don't have energy for to do anything with. So we begin to ignore it. And when you ignore the pain in your body, you are also ignoring and suppressing the awareness of your body, which is related to the pleasure in your body. Someone recently shared something on social media that said like, if you don't love your body and compliment your body and treat it well, and you just expect to come by and get pleasure whenever you want, you're being a fuckboy to your own body. And I really, really like that. So just knowing that the pain that you have in your body is an alarm system going off that it's trying to tell you that something is not correct. And you can seek help. It took me 6 years to seek help from a physical therapist because I was having lower back pain. And I thought the cultural message that I got was that when you have lower back pain, you will always have lower back pain. But as it turns out, I saw a physical therapist and they were like, no, your hip is just 3 inches outside of where it needs to be. Let's pop it back into place. And since then, we have been doing physical therapy recovery for my pelvis and my back. And my pain has significantly lessened, which when you have less pain, there is so much more energy for you to experiment and play with that can go towards sexual energy.
Yes.
And then another thing that you chatted or that you mentioned was like trauma. And I want to clarify what trauma is. Trauma, in my definition, is anything that has created a negative belief. And that can be a physical or an emotional instance. So physical pain and trauma is one thing. And then emotional pain and trauma is just as severe or can be just as severe. And if it's made an impact on your life, if it's something that you think about, if it's something that you notice that your body remembers, meaning if you kind of like flinch or if your nervous system is activated, that's where you can begin to get really curious about how specific intense experiences in your life have impacted how safe you feel. Because if you don't feel safe, it's really, really difficult to be turned on. It's the opposite. It is fight, flight, flee, or fawn, and that does not allow for rest and relaxation to show up, which is often what we need in order to get off. Yeah. So many things.
I know. There are so many things. Something that I thought of when you're talking about that is like, you know, because we've talked a lot about the things that get in the way. But I think too, it's really helpful for me. I like to do this in my life in like many areas of my life, but especially we're on the topic of sexuality and like libido, figuring out like what you actually want for your life, right? Like what is your kind of desire of how you'd like to be functioning, how you'd like to be operating, and kind of figure out like how to see that future self. Because when you can see like that future self part of you, then you can take that as like, oh, that's like my desire. That's where I want to go. How do I work backwards from that? Like, here I am. Here's my future self. And how do I make this journey to becoming what I know is possible and inside of me? And so and that makes it kind of doable. Then you kind of can come up with the steps. Okay, like if I need, what does it look like when I'm halfway there? What does it look like when I'm a quarter of the way there? 3/4, like figuring it out. So I think that's a helpful thing.
You are explaining coaching 101. Health coaching, sex coaching. I think that's basically what you and I do professionally is we ask people like, what are their goals, desires, dreams? Where do they want to be like 6 months from now, a year from now? And we basically create the path for them to go down, hold their hand, and make sure that they hit all the marks as much as they possibly can to get to becoming the fullest potential that they want for themselves.
Yes.
Billboard. We'll put it on a billboard. It's meant to be an advertisement, but we'll take it as that. Is there anything else, Hillary, that you would like to share about libido before we kind of start to wrap up?
Yeah, I think I kind of want to summarize like the big picture of libido, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Because I think
Slow it down.
Okay. I think it's really In a way, it's really simple. It's not necessarily easy because it requires habit change, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But just as like a bigger picture, you have this body, it functions in a certain way currently. You need to like humans, just a person with a human body needs to move, they need to sweat, like exercise, go on walks, do that. You need to like sweat. You need to breathe deeply through your whole body. You need to nourish your body with healthy foods. You need to hydrate. Like these are like basic kind of fundamental things to activate your body. You need to be eliminating and releasing through sweat, through urine, through going to the bathroom, like in all the ways. And then, like that's like foundation. Then you get to explore, like, okay, but what turns you on? Like, what actually stimulates arousal, be it like through all of your senses, figuring that out. Like, aromas are so amazing. Things that you can see are so amazing. Things that you can hear, music, breathing, hearing people moaning, like all of the things, um, tasting things, like having a list of aphrodisiac foods that like all those things. But those are like the tip of the iceberg. If you don't have the foundational like pieces in place, then you throwing maca at your libido and throwing some cacao on there like in the afternoon, hoping that you're gonna like suddenly feel really sexy when you're stressed, overworked, haven't exercised in a week, like haven't drinking any water, like cacao and maca might like do a tiny bit, but it's not. So it's like it's really kind of committing to like awakening your whole body, your mind, and all of that, and then adding the like the superpower things that are going to take that to the next level
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to like explore and have an open mind and see like what else is there, you know? But I think foundation and then extras, foundation and then extras. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just, yeah, that's my
Thank
kind
you.
of
That's so
summary.
great. I feel motivated. I'm like, I am gonna switch shit up. Damn. Um, and earlier we were talking about things that you learned through doing the erotic breakthrough course. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that? Because there's too many notes for me to add to make it fit into our closing.
Yeah, like our work together of yeah. So I've gone through Jessie's training. I was actually her first demo person when she was in her training like a decade ago.
You were my first client.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It changed my life. It really made me understand, like I had this we all have these concepts of what turns us on.
Oh, right.
But when we actually explore on our physical body, and Jessie and I are like platonic friend lovers. Like we're not actual lovers. We're not
We're
like
not romantic, platonic friend lovers, you know?
yeah. We're not like interested in each other sexually, but we play together in like pretty platonic ways, but it's really explorative. And I have learned so much through being the demo model for Jessie's classes because each time I show up and I just like arrive with how I am, how I'm feeling, with like true communication. I take care of myself beforehand, and then her and I are communicating and we're just playing and exploring different touches. I feel like I've been able to expand my concept of turn on, sensuality, sexuality, what I'm interested in, what I want, all kinds of things through that lightness of like exploration. And so I really encourage that like you find people that are safe or with your partner that feels safe. If you don't have a partner, with friends, just like getting into explorative places with safety and containers and magical herbs.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's exactly what happened with me as well. After I did my training, I realized that I had subscribed to a type of sexuality. Like I thought I needed caressing and stroking and like candles lit and nice dinners for me to get turned on. And I would do all of those things and receive all of those things. And I would be like, where the fuck is my turn on? And I would be able to feel that, and that would bring up anxiety of like, I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing and it's still not here. And then I would get that angry voice in my mind of like, what is taking so long? And my partner would begin to feel it and be like, what's the matter? And I'd be like, I don't know, I'm not turned on. And by exploring outside of that box, because I realized like, oh, if it's not turning me on, then it's not for me, even if it's something that I have identified with or thought that it's what I needed. So learning about your erotic blueprint is really integral to understanding what your desires and what your true turn on is outside of all of society's prescriptions. Hillary,
all the snaps.
Yes. If people want to follow you, be a part of your programs, learn from you, be guided from you, how would they get in touch with you, or how would you like them to follow you?
Oh, yeah. Yes. So you could go to my website, which has all my offerings. It's being updated. I'm putting new courses on there right now, so it's not quite updated yet, but it's wildveda.com. Wild, and then Veda is VEDA. And so you could find me there, or Hillary@wildveda.com is my email. Or if you're on Instagram and you like that kind of vibe, it's wild.veda. And I work one-on-one with people, and I also teach classes. And summer, I'll be taking like a little break of classes, but in fall, there's an Ayurveda 101 Know Yourself, Heal Yourself course, and we'll be kind of going into all the things we talked about in the beginning. So,
and can they get on the wait list for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say email me, or you can sign up on the website.
Cool. And Hillary and I have also talked about collaborating to do a health and sexual wellness course that will potentially be launching in September after we're all done having fun in the summertime.
Yeah.
So that we can hone in on the magic of your libido and influencing your libido and getting to know your desires more and your health and wellness and vitality.
Yes.
Yay!
Our sexy, sultry, luscious class.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, thank you all so much for being here. We will see you again sometime soon. You can always watch this for the replay, or you can connect with Hillary or I privately. I hope you all have a great week. Bye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Bye.